Thank you. This evening's debate deals with one of the most important problems facing sport today, doping, the use of performance-enhancing drugs and methods. It's important because it affects the health of the athletes who practice it and those who emulate the sport heroes that they admire. It's important because it goes to the very heart of sport and its integrity. I want to focus on two elements in this portion of my remarks, health and integrity. So let's start at the beginning. Sport, like this debate, is governed by rules to which the participants agree. In fact, the rules are the essential element of sport as we know it. Some of them may seem arbitrary, why the race is 100 meters as opposed to 95 or 105, but they are the rules, and they're the rules on which we agree. One of those sport rules is that participants do not take certain drugs or use certain methods for performance enhancement. And also, we should be clear here. Until there is a rule against the use of something, it may be foolish, it may be dangerous, but it can't be criticized as a breach of ethics or a rule of conduct. Don't get led off into the wilderness by examples from ancient Greece and so forth that preceded the rules that we now face today. Once there is a rule, however, that becomes the deal and part of the game, whether the rule relates to drugs, equipment, or anything else central to the sport. And those rules become our deal with each other as participants. If you don't like the rules, unlike society in general, you're not obliged to participate. You can find somebody who wants to play by the rules that you prefer. Almost all of the prohibited substances and methods have the potential to damage the health of the athletes. In the 1950s and 1960s, before there were rules, veterinary products were used to beef up the human cattle. Shot putters went from throwing from 60 feet to 70 feet. It's true they had terminal acne, testicles the size of jelly beans, a sperm count of 0, and were in a perpetual rage, but boy, they could sure toss the shot a lot further. The initial anti-doping rules were adopted mainly as a result of concerns regarding health. A Danish cyclist died during the 1960 Olympics in Rome. There was the Olympics in which I participated. And he died as a result of drug use. He didn't just get sick or incur a long-term health problem or fall off his bike and skin his knees. He died. If a particular sport rule proves to be no good or unnecessary or in need of amendment, the sport can change it. There's no problem about that. But you as a participant cannot do it unilaterally and clandestinely. Why do you suppose that no one with any responsibility, let me underline that, is willing to say, let the athletes do whatever they want? Even the professional leagues don't say that. They know perfectly well there's a danger to health. With the rules comes a question of trust. We have expectations of each other, that we play in accordance with the rules that we agreed upon as part of our participation, including rules prohibiting drug use. We're ready to demonstrate that compliance at any time. That's also part of our deal. We don't hide behind spurious claims of privacy. We agree on the penalties if there's a breach of the rules. And the sport rules on drug use are no different from sport rules regarding such things as gambling. Pete Rose has been kept out of the Baseball Hall of Fame because of gambling, because nobody was really sure whether they were watching real sport. In more modern times, my view is that Henry Aaron has a record, Barry Bonds has a number. When there's a breach of that trust, you have to see what it is. And drug use in sport is no more and no less than cheating, and in most cases, dangerous cheating. Remember that athletes don't take these drugs to level the playing field. They do it to get an advantage. And if everyone else is doing what they're doing, then instead of taking 10 grams or 10 cc's of whatever it is, they'll take 20 or 30 or 40. And a vicious circle simply gets bigger. The end game will be an activity that is increasingly violent, extreme, and meaningless, practiced by a class of chemical and/or genetic mutant gladiators. The use of performance-enhancing drugs is not accidental. It is planned and deliberate, with the sole objective of getting an unfair advantage. I don't want my kids, or your kids, or anybody's kids, to have to turn themselves into chemical stockpiles just because there are cheaters out there who don't care what they promised when they started to participate. I don't want my kids in the hands of a coach who would encourage, condone, or allow the use of drugs among his or her athletes. Always struck by Vince Lombardi, a wonderful coach. There's one thing he said that I wish he hadn't, when he said, winning is the only thing. It's not. I liked it much better when he said, if you're not fired with enthusiasm, you will be fired with enthusiasm. That's a much better message. So going forward, what we need is an increased change of attitude. Cheating in sport destroys everything that the athletes set out to accomplish. It turns them, among other things, into liars. Marion Jones persisted with a lie for more than 7 years. Ben Johnson lied to me in 1988. I was really looking forward to having him here tonight. 20 years later, it's too bad his lawyers pulled him out of this at the last minute. But attitudes can change, even big attitudes like this. If 10 years ago I had said that in 10 years from today, it would be illegal to smoke a cigarette in a restaurant in Paris, you'd have laughed. So it's important for me to keep the question of doping and drug use from becoming banal and being turned into various shades of gray. The issue of cheating is not gray. It's black and it's white. Drug use may not affect fan interest, but it should. And that's our failure as fans, compounding the failure of drug-using players and the leagues.
Please finish up.
Are these really our personal values? That dangerous cheating is what we stand for? Let me finish with Bishop Fulton Sheen. He had a great thing. He said, if it's wrong, even if everybody's doing it. And if it's right, even if nobody's doing it.